This is John Black, super chemist. I think this is, I don't even know, part 4.
So if
I'm going to read from page 80. I'm going to read from page 80 of a book called Dreaming in Cuban.
Okay, then if that, you can read from that text, if that's a text.
If at any point it's obscene, please stop me.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Hugo and Felicia stripped in their room, dissolving easily into one another, and made love against the whitewashed walls. Hugo bit Felicia's breast and left purplish bands of bruises on her upper thighs. He knelt before her in the tub and massaged the black Spanish soap between her legs. He entered into her repeatedly from behind. Felicia learned what pleased him. She tried.
I have to ask you to stop, sir.
Well, let's just understand this, that you're reading literature. I understand that. And there's a place for that. But if your purpose is to say, I'm going to bring before you something obscene, then you are injecting something different.
My purpose is to ask you, is it obscene?
Are you going to let me finish my comment?
Sure,
that would be great. So if you're telling us that this is a literary text that is used in our schools and you want to read the page from it, then I don't think, Madam Chair, that we ought to interfere. Let him read that section and we can move on.
The time is up.
I have interrupted Mr. Lewis in engaging this conversation, and
What's the big deal about reading a passage in a book? If there's nothing wrong with the book, why are these people, why do they care? Why don't they just say read it? Let everyone see how stupid you are, that it's not obscene. Why don't they do that?
We have made a commitment to honor time.
Okay.
And regardless of differences or whatever, I want that to be honored because that's what we stand for. So I would ask that Mr. Lewis be given an additional 30 seconds so that he does not have anything that has been taken away from him.
Thank you, Mr. Fishbane. Please move forward, sir.
He entered her repeatedly from behind. Felicia learned what pleased him. She tied his arms above his head with her underclothing and slapped him sharply when he asked, "You are my bitch." I won't use that word. Hugo said, groaning. In the morning he left, he promised her a return this summer. The process is broken, and I ask that this district take action to prevent these types of non-rigorous materials, and that's the key term. This is not rigor. I don't send my daughter and my son to school to read this. Can we all accept and agree that the rights of parents are limited or even eliminated when inappropriate books are put into the media centers where parents have no view of what's going on? It is disingenuous to use book banning allegations to promote obscene, pornographic, and non-rigorous materials in our schools. In a nutshell, for me, this creates an issue of judgment and trust, and I ask that trust and judgment be restored. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
2 weeks ago, the Collier County Public School Administration issued an apology for posting a summer reading recommendation list that contained basically about 60 soft to hardcore porn books from the Goodreads.com site for middle schoolers. 60. They claimed the site had changed since it was vetted a month before, but I wasn't convinced it was a mistake because I have seen the required reading lists for high school, and I'm not talking about Mark Twain or To Kill a Mockingbird. Just last year, the required reading for Honors English 3 was Clockwork Orange. Did you know Clockwork Orange begins with a 15-year-old high school boy on drugs enticing two 10-year-old girls into an orgy and then beats them up? So I decided to check the media centers in our schools and see what's available there. I found a book called The Bluest Eye, which is about incest between a father and a daughter. This became the subject of a news story last week by Sophie Nielsen Colding of NBC2, and she read this portion to Mr. Trichetta of CCPS. Quote, "He must rest his weight on his elbows when they make love to avoid hurting her breasts." And Mr. Trichetta's answer to that was, "What is offensive to you may not be offensive to me." Really, Mr. Trichetta, you're not offended by a father raping his young daughter? Okay. Well, how about the book Beloved, where the black members of a chain gang are forced by the white guards to perform a sexual act on the guards, which is supposed to suffice as their breakfast. Also, acts of bestiality are mentioned 4 times in that book, and you can get that book at all our high schools and even Corkscrew Middle School. Now, I'm not going to waste time going through a huge list of inappropriate R-rated books available to minor children of this county. They're there, and there are plenty of them. But it brings to mind a parent's worst fear, that while I'm doing everything in my power to raise good kids in a loving and wholesome environment, that unbeknownst to me, there may be a guy in a black car on a street corner beckoning my child to come here. I have something to show you, enticing my child with books and pictures. And I have no idea my child is being molested. I fear that guy in the black car may be those responsible in this district for putting those books on the shelves for children, putting our child in harm's way unbeknownst to us. Did you know that when the most notorious rapist serial killer, Ted Bundy, was interviewed in prison and asked why he did what he did, he answered, "It all started with porn." A school should be a safe place for children. And we've learned this week the Collier County School District may not be trustworthy. In fact, Mr. Trichetta, peddling porn to minors is against obscenity laws in Florida. When parents take great effort to protect their kids and the district minimizes or ignores it, then we feel our kids' minds and souls are not safe in Collier County Public Schools. Now here's a thought. We rate movies and video games to protect children from age-inappropriate themes. Why not books? Now, these themes may be okay to atheists, spinsters, young singles, and those with alternative lifestyles, but it's...
I love how she just throws in atheists and this and that. Hey, man, they're pedophiles. Call them what they are. They're pedophiles. Don't lump in other groups with these people. They're not gay. They're not trans. They're pedophiles.
Not to parents. It's not okay with us. Don't forget, these are our children. It's too bad we feel like we have to protect them from you. By the way, the Pope warns parents, stop relying on experts to educate your children. It's time that mothers and fathers return from their exile. They've exiled themselves from the education of their children. Don't delegate it to so-called experts.
Yeah, that's part of the 100-year plan. They got mothers to not be mothers anymore. They're just another worker bee. You know, paying into the system that's, you know, basically run through the Federal Reserve Bank for them to suck up everyone's money.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Ivana Zecki, Steve Bracci, and John Thomas.
If you'll come forward, gentlemen.
Hello, Ivana Zecki, mother of 3 school-age kids in Collier County. Last spring, 6 weeks prior to the end of the school year, I was forced to pull my daughter out of Pine Ridge Middle School. There were multiple issues throughout the school year that contributed to this, but the final straw was my 13-year-old being forced to watch movies in class that depicted the rape of slaves, their being impregnated with mulatto babies, and hearing about religious groups where postmenopausal women will teach young boys how to have sex. This is in U.S. history class. We had to go to great time, expense, and trouble to get her set up homeschooling while we waited to hear what was going to be done about this. We are still waiting, and while we've been waiting, we continue to hear about more inappropriate content in the classrooms and books on the bookshelves in our middle school and high schools, some of which I've already talked to the Pine Ridge librarian about prior to removing my daughter. Some that I've just recently learned about are The Bluest Eye, Beloved, Dreaming in Cuban, which you heard excerpts of. And the reason we're just hearing a lot about these 3 books is not because it's just 3 books, it's just because these are very well-known books. There are thousands of books available to our children that parents do not have time to go through individually and read, in addition to raising children and work.
Keep in mind that, you know, in 2021, when Joe Biden came into office, BIPOC, meaning segregation, was non-existent. Then he comes into office 2021, boom, segregation spikes. And now we have BIPOC, B-I-P-O-C. And what else happened? In 2021, when Joe Biden came into office, there was a 1,000, it was either somewhere between 1,100% and 1,200%. You know what I mean? It was like 1,150 or something. Keep in mind, 100% is doubling. 200% is tripling. And I'm saying it's like at 1,200%. It jumped. Like one day it was this, not next year it was jumped 1,200%, 1,200% on how many books people are complaining, saying that they're obscene in public schools. You know, that they need their pedophile books. That's a lot of percentage of jumps.
Working. We send our children to school to learn how to do math, science, reading, writing. Let's focus on getting that right. There is not a shortage of good literature that we have to include these types of books in our children's libraries. And if there are...
Keep in mind, our kids are graduating and they don't even know how to read and write or do basic arithmetic. but they got these books, and we pay for them out of our tax. That's what the government, I mean, the public school is a government, is the government. Why are we giving money to the government to give porn to our kids and butt plugs in school?
Are some children who thirst for sexual content? I don't think it's our school's responsibility to quench that thirst. This is becoming a systemic problem and undermining the ability of parents to trust this district with our children. Thank you.
Everyone born with a vulva is a girl. True or false? Or identifies as a girl.
There is to know about LGBT. Of course, right now it's all the rage to teach kids as young as 5 everything there is to know about LGBT. It's interesting how all this new wave of teaching kids about being gay and trans and bi, etc., is actually doing the opposite of we see people among the younger generation is actually going down for the first time in a very long time. So let's just get to reacting, by the way.
Hi, I'm Facelift. I use the pronouns she and her, and I'm queer identified.
Okay, so a little bit.
I use they, them, because I'm a non-binary performer.
Of course you are.
What are some other sexuality terms that people identify as?
Asexual.
Asexual, yeah. And that means that it's somebody that might have romantic interests, but they don't have sex. They generally. Any others?
Gay.
Gay, totally.
Mm-hmm. Lesbian.
Yes, lesbian for sure.
What's lesbian?
Nobody's mentioned straight.
Nobody's mentioned straight.
Do you have male or female parts?
I'm sure a lot of people ask, or a lot of people are wondering that. For me personally, I have had top surgery, which means that I had, the technical term is a double mastectomy. So I did have my breasts removed, so I have scars here on my chest. And then I really only talk about kind of what's in my pants if people are getting in there.
It's just so uncomfortable. Some trans guy.
These body parts did not work for my body, and everybody is going to find out who they are in different ways, whether that's surgery, whether that's hormones, or whether it's nothing at all.
Like she said, it's like 0.002% of the population that are actually trans. The other rest are just autistic, gay, they have low social skills, and so they jump on the bandwagon to be popular and be accepted.
Okay, so first of all, I have a bit of an issue with teaching kids who there is about a 99.999% chance that none of the kids in that room are trans, that like surgery is the answer. No!
Hi, I'm Nadine, a sex educator.
And I'm Eva, a sex researcher.
I use the pronouns she and her.
Never would have guessed. Thanks for letting me know.
Today we have our dolls, Ginger and Blue. They are gender flexible today, so you can use any pronoun you want for them.
They're dolls, sweetie.
True or false? There's no right or wrong age to fall in love.
This is true. People fall in love at all different kinds of ages.
You can see this kid right here. Look how he's a kid.
He's undoing my belt. I'm reaching into his bedside drawer for a condom.
Yep, that's real.
A good handy is all about the wrist action. Rub the head of his back and forth with your hand.
Yeah, that's all in here too.
After a bit, a person's becomes moist and slippery.
And sadly, this is real too, including multiple different sex positions. It, truth be told,
you know, these are just a couple examples of these people going to city councils, meaning the city government, school council, where the PTA meetings and that type of things. These people get up and try to read these books that are given to 5-year-olds, and they are told that they can't read these books because they're inappropriate, even though they're in an adult setting with a city council or a school council. Everyone's an adult, but it's too graphic for them, so they kick them out. A few sentences. That's why they only show you a couple sentences, because after a couple sentences they kick them out. Say, oh, that's not appropriate. But why is it appropriate for 5-year-olds if it's not appropriate for grown adults?
He's undoing my belt. I'm reaching into his bedside drawer for a condom.
Yep, that's real.
A good handy is all about the wrist action. Rub the head of his back and forth with your hand.
Yeah, that's all in here too.
After a bit, a person's becomes moist and slippery.
And sadly, this is real too, including multiple different sex positions.